This is my 1970 Envoy Epic, and it's been sitting for 46 years in a barn. This is the fuel tank I just pulled out, and this is the gasoline that I just drained out of the tank. No, that's not rust, that's varnish. That used to be liquid. So today we're gonna try to restore this tank, but we're gonna try to use some off-the-shelf stuff from Walmart. Now obviously mixed in with all that varnish is a decent amount of rust, and that's because there's a good layer of surface rust on the bottom of this tank, but there's no hole, so we're gonna be able to save it. We're gonna deal with that rust in a little bit. I have a method that I wanna try that I'm hoping is gonna be a little bit easier and more inexpensive than methods I've used in the past. But before we can get to that, we need to make sure we get all of the varnish out of the tank. And that's gonna require a little bit of elbow grease. Now, I was lucky in this aspect because the varnish is so bad, all I had to do was bang the tank on the ground a bunch of times to knock it free, and then I could suck the rest of it out with vacuum. There's just a little bit left over, which we're gonna have to use another method to get out. Now, if the varnish isn't as bad as this, you might find it's more of a gummy consistency, and you're not gonna be able to knock it out. That means, unfortunately, you're gonna have to move on to step 2, and it's gonna be a little bit more time consuming for you. So what's step 2 then? Well, this is where the elbow grease really comes in. Now, I usually use nuts and bolts, but I don't actually have a good supply of those right now, so I just went to my driveway and grabbed a bunch of rocks. All you need is something that's got some sharp pointy ends on it, and you're gonna take them and pour them in the tank. I probably have about 4 soup cans worth of rocks in here right now, and I'm gonna do this dry because, again, my varnish was so solidified, this is probably gonna work. If you have that gummy consistency, you're gonna wanna add some acetone to the mix as well to try and break up the varnish. And then we get to the fun part. This is gonna take a while. We're gonna try to speed up this process. I wasn't kidding when I said this is gonna take a lot of elbow grease. As you can see, we're already losing the light. I've been at this for a while, and I still don't have all the varnish out. Still a few pieces that are being real sticky, so I'm gonna put the chain back in, keep on going, but I'm gonna add a little bit of solvent into it to try and help loosen it up. Hopefully that'll get the last little bits out. Okay, I had to move inside because it's now too dark out there to even record anymore, but we are very close to the final step in the process, and that is dealing with the final little bit of rust left at the bottom of the tank. The chain and the solvent have removed any of the loose flaking rust and dealt with any of the varnish that's just been sticking in there, but we do have this kind of layer of rust dust left over. Now, if you were to just throw this thing back in and fill the tank up, what would end up happening is this stuff would actually become suspended in your gasoline, and it'll go through your fuel system, clogging up your filter, and if it gets through that, it'll also damage your carburetor or your fuel injector. So obviously we want to deal with this. Now, in the past, I've used multiple different methods to get rid of it, including electrolysis, muriatic acid, vinegar, and a handful of other off-the-shelf rust removers as well, and they've done the job just fine. Now, I know some of you out there are saying PR15 makes a fuel oil tank restoration kit. They do. I have it. I'm just really nervous about using it because if it flakes off, then you're in for a real problem. By doing it this way, if it rusts again, you just have to repeat this really annoying process. But what I want to try and use today is something just off the shelf from your hardware store, and that is CLR. CLR stands for calcium, lime, and rust remover. And you see the ads where they just kind of wipe it on and take off rust stains. I want to see if it's strong enough to remove all of this stuff from the inside of the tank. So I've put our fuel sender back in. I've got some kind of butyl tape in there to seal it up because the fuel sender actually disintegrated on me. And now we're just gonna pour some of this into the tank straight. You can dilute it if you want, but I think we're gonna go full strength. All right, I haven't put too much in there, but enough that I should be able to coat the whole tank. We're gonna plug this off and then shake it around. Now, there's a couple of reasons I wanted to try the CLR. One is because you can buy it at pretty much any hardware store, Walmart, Amazon, whatever, and it's relatively inexpensive. Secondly, it's actually completely biodegradable. It's 80% plant-based actually, so it isn't really gonna hurt anything. And, well, if it doesn't work, then at least I have something to clean my shower. So I'm gonna plug this off and slosh it around, then we'll take a look at it in the morning.
It's just poured everywhere.
Yeah, that means that when I fill the tank and you hit the throttle, it's just gonna come straight out the back of the car. Is that even a gasket? At least it's not muriatic acid all over this time. That sucked. The true reason that we're trying to use CLR this time. Well, we'll leave that sit. I'll check it tomorrow. Well, unfortunately, that is not the result that I was hoping to get from the CLR. I was hoping it was going to do a little bit more. As you can see, it kind of cleaned that one little area where the liquid was sitting, but it's also left this white residue all over the tank, and the rest of the tank still looks just as bad as it did last night. So maybe with enough time and enough fluid, it would work, but that would cost a fortune to fill the whole tank with CLR, and I don't want to wait that long for it to work. So that means I am going to go to something a little bit more aggressive. Muriatic acid. Now this stuff is not fun. I really shouldn't even be holding the bottle without gloves. If you're going to do it this way, do it outside. The mist that this creates will cause any bare metal in your shop to instantly turn to rust. And I know that sounds weird. I'm using something that's going to create rust to remove rust. Yeah, it works, but it's a bit weird. So here's the thing. Once we've done this, I've sloshed it around for about 10 minutes or so, and you're going to see that the tank's actually going to come surprisingly clean with this very small amount of effort. But you have to neutralize the acid afterwards. So you see here, I'm actually rinsing the tank out with water, filling it right to the top, sloshing around. I do this about 2 or 3 times to try and get as much of the acid out as possible. But now we need to do another step. And that's put an entire box of baking soda into the tank, fill it with water, and slosh it around to try and neutralize any of the remaining acid in the tank. If you don't do that, like I said, the acid will continue to eat at the metal and the metal will instantly rust again. Because we can't get in there with any primer or anything to cut off the oxygen to the tank, means that we have to neutralize it as best possible. So with a little bit more shaking around, I've done the best I can do. We drain the tank back out, and here's the end result. Yeah, I know there's still some stuff in there. I could keep on going with the chain, a little bit more acid. It probably wouldn't take a whole heck of a lot more work, but honestly, I'm gonna call this good here. I'm pretty confident that what's left isn't going to come off. I've had tanks that are worse than this, and they haven't caused any problem. So all I need to do now is dry this thing off, and I might put in a little bit of seafoam or something just to kind of put some kind of coating on the surface, and then throw the tank back in the vehicle. So if you did enjoy today's video, please hit that like and subscribe. If you have any other methods of de-rusting and cleaning out tanks, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I've used acid, I've used vinegar, and my favorite method is actually electrolysis. Maybe we'll do that one on another episode. But if you've got any other ways, let me know, because I'd love to hear them. If you got any suggestions on how to do this method better, also let me know. Otherwise, get out in the shop and do something. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.